Now, in Afghanistan, the number of people who died in an attack on Friday on an education centre has risen to 53. More than 110 are injured. The UN says casualty figures are likely to rise. Most of the victims are female students. The BBC's South Asia correspondent Yogita Limai reports.
The UN says casualty numbers could rise even further because the explosion took place at a centre where hundreds of teenagers had gathered to take a mock test in preparation for university admissions. Eyewitnesses have told the BBC that the suicide bomber ran into the centre and detonated an explosive device at the front of the class where female students were seated, separated from male students who were sitting in the benches at the back. And that's why most of those who've been killed are young women and girls. And to just give a context of who these women, who these girls were. So girls are barred from going to secondary schools in most of Afghanistan by the Taliban government. Many of these female students would have been in secondary schools, but because they were unable to go to secondary schools, they were taking private tuition, private lessons to continue their studies so that they could prepare for university entrance exams and continue their education in the future. And it's those girls, it's those women whose families were using whatever little means they have in a crumbling economy to try to continue their education. They've been targeted. No group has yet claimed responsibility for the attack, but we have previously seen attacks against girls' schools, and in particular the Hazara ethnic minority community targeted, as it has been in this case as well. And many of those attacks have been carried out by ISKP, Islamic State Khorasan Province, the regional affiliate of Islamic State. The Taliban have also been accused of carrying out persecution against the Hazara minority. They've been accused this time around of not doing enough to protect this community. So we have seen that because of the explosion that happened on Friday, protests which were triggered in different parts of Afghanistan, in the provinces of Kabul, Herat, Bamiyan, and even Balkh, we've seen women and some men marching on the streets demanding security and demanding the right to be educated. Now, one of the reasons why the UN has come in trying to verify the casualty numbers is because we have seen in previous instances the Taliban underreporting the number of people who died in such attacks, seeking to play down the threat of ISKP.
Yogita Limai.
Pinellas County Sheriff's deputies were already in the area with their helicopter and ground crews on another unrelated auto burglary call when their pilots noticed 3 teens on the south side of 62nd Avenue North walking eastbound around 3:30 Sunday morning. The sheriff's office says the teens kept walking until arriving at 28th Street, where a 2016 Maserati was parked outside a home. Sheriff Gultieri says a 15-year-old teen was seen walking up to the vehicle to check if it was open.
And he used a shirt to open the door handle of the car.
The teen discovered the Maserati was unlocked with the keys inside. That's when the sheriff says the teen decided to take it for a drive, along with a 15-year-old and 16-year-old passenger. The teen driver pulled out of the driveway with no lights on and took off onto 62nd Avenue North. Deputies on the ground spotted the vehicle turning on their overhead lights, but that's when the sheriff says the teen driver pushed the gas, going an estimated 80 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour speed zone. The sheriff says deputies don't pursue for stolen cars, so helicopter pilots kept following the vehicle from the sky.
The car starts fishtailing all over the road. He had no control over the car at that point. The car runs up over the curb, runs across the sign of the business behind me. The car flips.
The teens were all Pinellas County School students. Sheriff Gultieri says they snuck out of their home. But it wasn't their first time. Nearly a month ago, they got in trouble by the Kennett City Police Department for walking in a residential area at 4 in the morning, wearing all black clothes with their faces covered.
These kids were on that bad path, and what we see with these kids time and again is they're out in the middle of the night. They're looking for cars to break into. They're looking for cars to steal. And these are, again, crimes of opportunity.
The sheriff's office says they have video of the teen speeding in that vehicle. They will release that footage in the coming days. Reporting in Pinellas County, Annie Mapp, 8 on your side.
A cheating scandal rocking the world of competitive fishing. It happened at the end of the Lake Erie Walleye Trail Tournament in Ohio. Yeah, I've gutted a fish before. I've never found anything looking like that. It was all caught on camera. Garrett Tenney with the details live from our Chicago bureau. Hey, Garrett.
Yeah, Julie, this was not a bunch of amateurs popping cold ones and just fishing for fun. This was a pro tournament with prize money around $30,000 that was up for grabs. And Chase Kaminsky and Jake Runyon blew their competition out of the water with a catch that was 5 pounds heavier than second place. That kind of weight difference surprised a lot of anglers who were there Friday, considering that the pair's fish were smaller than what a lot of others had caught that day. They all found out why, though, when the director of the Lake Erie Walleye Trail gave the fish a squeeze, felt something hard inside, and took the unusual step of cutting them open to find 12-ounce metal balls stuffed inside, padded by extra fish fillets to keep them quiet. There isn't audio on this video because, as you heard earlier, all you would hear are bleeps from the furious crowd as they went off on Runyon. Many in the pro fishing world have suspected Runyon and Kaminsky of cheating in previous tournaments as well, since they came onto the scene in the last few years, winning hundreds of thousands of dollars in prizes. Local police and officers with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources are now investigating this scandal, and the pair could be facing criminal charges. Julie?
Wow. All right. I guess I have seen it all now. Garrett Tenney, thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
The jury is seated and opening statements are underway in the trial for 5 members of the Oath Keepers militia group charged with seditious conspiracy. It is the most high-profile January 6th case yet. The defendants, including the group's founder, Stuart Rhodes, you see there. This morning, the judge has already denied a motion by Rhodes and the other defendants for a change of venue, citing juror bias. Joining me now is NBC News Justice reporter Ryan Riley from outside the courthouse in Washington. Also, Joyce Vance with us, former U.S. attorney, law professor at the University of Alabama, co-host of the Sisters-in-Law podcast, and an MSNBC legal analyst. Ryan, let me just go to you first, and if you could, take us inside the courtroom and what we know has taken place so far.
That's right. So actually, the DOJ, the Justice Department, is right in the middle of their opening arguments right now, essentially laying out for jurors what they say is a plan here, essentially, to oppose the peaceful transfer of power. They're laying out how Stuart Rhodes talked with a lot of members of the Oath Keepers and worked with them to have guns stationed outside of D.C. In a hotel in Virginia, and were sort of lying in wait until they were called upon under the invocation of the Insurrection Act, is what Stuart Rhodes' lawyers is maintaining. Now, DOJ is essentially arguing that this argument about the Insurrection Act is essentially just a cover story for what they actually wanted to do. And in fact, they played audio of him saying just that this is the legal cover for what they were trying to do, which was oppose the lawful transfer of power and keep Donald Trump in office. So I expect we'll get more arguments about that going forward, where DOJ says, hey, this is just a cover story. He's trying to